Hello everyone and welcome back to the world of the VCO Esports Studio. Today we continue our journey through the world of sim racing, talking to someone who is not just a very talented driver, but someone who has done a lot of work that you may not have known about. Today we're joined by the latest winner in the 24-hour SERIES Esports Championship. It's Dani Elgarbay of the MSI Esports team. Dani, delighted to have you. You are not just a driver for MSI, you are part of the VCO content crew as well. Talk to us a little bit about your split roles in sim racing.
How you told everybody, I usually work with VCO doing the posters and the photo stuff for VCO events. Not all the events, but the ones I can. And I also sim race for MSI Sports, as you can see there. Well, not there, maybe there, not there. Maybe.
There we go.
Here. There we go. And yeah, I combine both the graphic design stuff and the sim race one.
Let's talk about then your sim racing driving first before we get into a little bit more about the artwork. Because of course you race mostly now in GT3 cars, and of course with MSI losing Alejandro Sanchez to Apex Racing Team last year, you've been one of those names that's really risen forward and been able to continue having MSI at the front. Of course, we saw your pole position in BMW Sim GT Cup earlier this year, and now, of course, continuing the run of form that your team has shown this year in the 24-hour SERIES Esports. How interesting is it for you in GT3 to be working across the different cars from season to season, figuring out which one is the fastest?
Well, for me, it's usually very easy to choose the cars because it's mostly BMW, Mercedes, and Porsche. I hate the BMW, so the Porsche is always the one I want to pick, but some teammates don't like the Porsche, so we have to work on that, maybe. Since Alejandro left the team, we have been working very hard to be up there, as you said. The pole position from the BMW 120 and the Sim GT Cup at Sebring was like, I think it was one of my top performance, I can say. The 24-hour series race this weekend was one of my best performance too. But yeah, the GT3 field is like very competitive, full of very good drivers. So it's like a grind that never stops. You have to put in a lot of hours to be up there and to learn about the cars and everything.
Let's talk a little bit then about your team and the MSI brand itself, because of course it's not just about sim racing with you, there's a lot of the real world partnerships that you have as well.
MSI stands for Motorsport Institute. It's not like the graphic car brand, so everybody doesn't get confused or anything. We don't make GPUs, okay? We race in real life, and we have a real life team that Teo Martins is the boss of, and we are basically the esports part of it, and we try to represent the brand and the Teo Martin team as best as possible. And we usually do collaborations with the real world stuff, maybe.
In terms as well then of the competitions that you and MSI have been entering this year, are we going to see maybe Dani Elgarbay work towards a world championship? Because of course it was, I guess, last year that you got so close before a hardware failure really robbed you of the chance of moving forward.
The Porsche qualifiers I did on 2020, I think it was, or 2021. I don't remember anymore. I think my head just cleaned that thing because it was not very good experience. But as I told you, the field is very competitive on every race, and on the Porsche, on the PES is like 10 times higher, and you need to put like a massive amount of hours week to week, work as hard as you can on a car that is not easy to drive, that minimum mistake can cost you like, and those 2 times qualifying. So very hard, but I don't know if I'm going to try to qualify again. Right now it's not my priority. Like I'm very comfortable racing GT3s and racing some private champs like 24-hour series, special events. and doing graphic stuff for VCO and everything. So right now I'm on my sweet spot. Maybe when iRacing decides to use the GT3s to do another pro championship, maybe I will jump in, but not with the Porsche, I
Sound
think.
Sounds like a lot of fun, that's for sure. I enjoy a lot of GT3 action. We saw some of that last summer with the SEO Sprint Masters. Let's pivot then a little bit and let's talk about graphic stuff, because you and I have worked together in the past on the ISOWC last year. We had a lot of fun doing that, and one of the things that I always got comments for was about your poster designs. You've started a lot earlier than that, though. You've been Mode Motorsports e-NASCAR person for a long time. Talk to us about your process and what goes into the actual act of creating one of your fantastic posters.
Well, when a team asks me to do a poster, I usually visualize the concept in my head. Like most of the time, designing a poster is like the difficult part is just imagining what you want to do and not actually doing it. So most of the time I do like 2-3 concepts that usually go to the trash until I get the one I like. And then I just keep working back and forth with the guys I'm working with. Maybe you, maybe VCO, maybe Motorsport on in NASCAR, sending concepts, designs, and if they're happy, I will just keep improving the design until the final version is on, basically.
What are the challenges that you tend to find? Are there certain tracks where it's hard to find distinguishing features, or are there certain cars which are just harder to work with?
Yeah, for example, if you tell me to make a poster about the Jetta TDI, the Volkswagen, and that might be a difficult one, maybe. And if you ask me to do like a very old circuit on iRacing, or a circuit that I never heard of, like Homestead Miami Road Course C+2, that one might be difficult too. But mostly every league race on the same tracks, so it's usually I know what makes a track special and the identity of it, so I can work with it very, very easily.
You have a new setup now, so let's talk about this before we talk about what you and I know we're going to talk about. How long does it take you to work through one of these posters from concept to finished product?
So, for example, the VCO poster I did for Apex Racing Team that won the ERL Fall Summer Cup, Fall Cup. Yeah, it was the Fall Cup. That it was on the F4 at Fuji, for example. I did like 3 concepts, and then I started working on the one that you guys saw on the social media that ended up looking very good. So from the concept to the final design that I sent Florian, for example, it was like 2.5 hours, maybe 3. It can be sometimes, but I have done posters like the one on Long Beach that I did for ISOWC on the IndyCar. That one took like 3.5 hours, maybe, because it was like a lot of buildings and everything. So it just comes up to me the amount of time I want to put in. But I'm like very perfectionist. I look up to the small details all the time. So I always want to put the most work on every poster I do.
That I can very much attest to. Let's talk, though, about your previous setup. Before you got a new GPU, it took a while, of course, in the craze that was the GPU market. You were rocking a 750 Ti, a graphics card that released in 2014. I'm sure that very much slowed down your process. Talk to the viewers about what that was like.
To be honest, the 750 Ti was like just very slow to work with, man. It's like when I remember it, it's just raging. Like if I wanted to cut out a car, I have to wait like 5 minutes until the PC decide to just go with it and tell me, okay, I can do this. No, but when I wanted to, like, for example, put lighting or an effect, it was like impossible. It was like working with a Nintendo 3DS playing PowerPoint or something.
I can only imagine how frustrating that was. In terms, though, of other platforms now, of course, you're working with VCO for the ERL. We've got Assetto Corsa competition, R Factor 2, one of the two coming up next Wednesday. Have you ever branched out into those platforms and played around with the tools that they have for creative people like yourself?
I lost you like 5 seconds, maybe. I think my connection is cutting out a bit. Can you repeat the question, please?
Yes, no, let's try again. Well, I was just asking, have you tried branching out to R Factor 2 or Assetto Corsa Competizione and checking out what the tools they have for people like you?
Yeah, I did multiple posters on Air Factor, I think, right now. One was for VCO, that Team Red Line won the Air Factor race. And Air Factor is surprisingly not too bad to do poster on. It's like, again, I always thought that it was going to look like maybe a PlayStation 2 game, but it looks good. It looks good. And on ACC, it's even better to work with than on iRacing because the cars look more realistic. It has more resolution to it. Making a car look like how I want to make it look on ACC is like 5 times easier than on iRacing, for example.
So which one is so I guess Assetto Corsa Competizione is then the best of the three for people like you to work with?
Right now, I think ACC is like the best one to work with posters. Okay, screenshots is like another thing. Screenshots is iRacing only. iRacing is like the best one to work with. Air Factory is like a nightmare, to be honest. And ACC is something like a nightmare, but not too bad.
Dani is also a sim photographer, for those that don't know, so he brings some context there. We'll pivot back to a story that you and I were chatting about before we went live, Dani, about, as you finally get your camera back up and running.
Okay,
Wonderful.
I don't know why.
We're talking about Sim Racing Expo. Now, there are always shenanigans that happen at Sim Racing Expo, and you had some fun ones back in 2019.
Yeah, on Sim Racing Expo, the one I went on 2019, it was a very funny story. I will mention Coanda on this one because it's like the one that happened. That I can tell. Some other stories that happen, I can tell on stream. But we were on the Porsche launch buffet, and usually there was two guys there that serve us a drink and the food and everything. But that day it was too early and they weren't there. So I arrived first and I thought, okay, there's nobody in here, so I will get behind the bar and I will act like a bartender. So Kwanda arrived, the young was looking like around, and I told him, I asked him, Mitchell, do you want something? And he asked me, okay, give me a water bottle. And I was like the bartender of the Porsche lounge for 5 minutes before I left.
Yes, I'm sure all the other stories about Sim Racing Expo are very much not suitable for broadcast in any sense and have to be kept private and well and truly hidden. Let's talk then about the future, Dani. Of course, winning the first race of the 24-hour Series Esports Championship sets you up perfectly for the rest of the year, but it's a long season and plenty of long races as well. What do you and the team at MSI look to accomplish as we head into this winter?
Well, we had a reunion, to be honest, before this race because last season we had like a lot of problems with the lap cars and sometimes with fighting. So this season we wanted to take like a different approach to the races, a much safer one. Safer is not starting from P11 like I did, but we will work on it. But we are going to try to do better choices on strategy, not don't change tires on a 50-degree track like we do on BMW's in GT Cup when we were P1, for example. We will try to work a lot on strategy and our mental, because mental is very important on sim racing, even if people don't really talk about it, but mental strength is one of the most important things on this. And we worked on it very hard on MSI for this season. And our objectives for the winter are special events. We have to win Daytona one year. We have that pain inside us that we didn't win the year we were fastest. I think we were P1 and something really bad happened and we didn't win the race. and we will try to be as competitive as we can on the Porsche, because I'm not touching the BMW again. That thing is really bad to drive. So I don't think you guys will see me on the BMW Sim GT Cup because I have PTSD on with that car.
I think you also have PTSD from the tires at Sebring, that is for sure. One more question then, before we wrap up, Daddy. What's the goals for you as an artist for the rest of the year? You've started as a video editor with Pablo Castro. You've started doing some poster work, separate from series, some car-related, just regular car, something for Craig Williams, who you also do setups for. What are you hoping to continue doing for the rest of this year?
Well, this year I found my passion on graphic design, to be honest. Before this year, I didn't really know that I wanted to do something with graphic design. I knew I liked it, but not that I wanted to do something with it. So my objective this year is to keep progressing, keep improving my work, to get to a very professional level, and maybe work for a company on the sector, like a motorsport team or even as in racing or like VCO. But even better.
And if anyone wants to reach out to you, how do they do that?
Yeah, they can reach out to me on my Twitter, because I have a direct message open that is like this one. Yeah, it's like this on my Twitter. So you guys can reach me there and ask me what my prices are, how can I send you what I want to do with you, and everything. You can tell me there openly.
Dani Elgarbay, winner in the 24-hour Series Esports Championship, but also a very talented artist willing to work with you. That's going to wrap up this episode of the VCO Esports Studio. But don't forget, we'll be back next Tuesday, same time, same place, here on the VCO Twitch channel and on VCO Twitter to talk to someone else unique in this world of sim racing. We'll navigate our way through, and you'll be along for the ride. You can watch live or catch it on your favorite podcast platform. And don't forget, next Wednesday, the VCO Esports Fall Cup returns. It's going to be a lot of fun on social media. You'll tell us where we go racing. For now, on behalf of the team at VCO Esports, for Mike Yao behind the scenes and for myself, Arjuna Kengipati, I bid you farewell. We'll see you next time on the VCO Esports Studio. We'll see you. Race on.